Have you ever felt the crushing weight of someone walking away? That moment when they say it's over and your world stops spinning, the tears, the confusion, the endless replaying of what went wrong. But what if I told you that their goodbye wasn't the end of your story? It was actually the beginning. When someone leaves, we often see ourselves as victims. We focus on what was taken from us, the companionship, the future we planned, the comfort of not being alone. But today, I'm going to challenge you to see something different. That person who left you didn't just walk away. They unknowingly handed you a gift: freedom. The freedom to rediscover who you truly are without their influence. The freedom to build a life that truly fits you, not one that was compromised to fit them. In this video, I'll show you how to transform your pain into power, how to recognize the ways you might have been limited in that relationship, how to embrace this new chapter, not as an ending forced upon you, but as a liberation that will lead you to greater happiness, deeper self-knowledge, and eventually more fulfilling connections. Your healing journey doesn't start when they come back. It starts when you realize they set you free. I know right now it feels like your chest has been ripped open. That hollow space where comfort used to live is now filled with questions that keep you awake at night. This pain is real. It's physical. It's consuming, and anyone who tells you to just get over it doesn't understand what's happening inside you. When someone walks away, they take pieces of you with them. Parts of your routine, your identity, your sense of security, all gone in an instant. Your brain is literally going through withdrawal. Studies show the same neural pathways that activate during drug addiction light up when we experience rejection. This isn't weakness, it's biology. That feeling of being discarded hits our deepest insecurities. Am I not enough? What's wrong with me? Why wasn't I worth staying for? These thoughts aren't irrational. They're a natural response to one of life's most profound losses. You trusted someone with your heart, and now you're left to make sense of why they couldn't treasure it. Some days you might feel angry, other days completely numb. Then suddenly a song plays or a memory surfaces, and you're back at square one, fighting tears in public places. This roller coaster isn't a sign you're handling it wrong. It's the necessary path through grief. Sleep eludes you. Food loses taste. Friends say you'll meet someone new, but right now that thought only makes you feel worse. How could anyone possibly fill this specific void? They can't, because each connection we form is uniquely irreplaceable. What hurts most isn't just losing them, but losing the future you had planned together. Every milestone you imagined sharing now feels like a ghost haunting your mind. Special dates on the calendar transform into landmines of emotion. This rejection touches primal fears of abandonment that date back to our earliest experiences. Our brains are hardwired to fear separation because, evolutionarily, being cast out from the tribe meant danger. Your pain isn't dramatic, it's deeply human. Pain gives us tunnel vision. We focus so intensely on what was taken from us that we become blind to what might now be possible. This narrowed perspective turns us into victims, passive characters in our own story, waiting for someone else to determine our worth and happiness. But what if we shifted this lens entirely? What if instead of seeing ourselves as left behind, we saw ourselves as finally set free? Freedom rarely arrives in pretty packages. It comes disguised as loss. wrapped in heartache, delivered when we least expect it. That person walking away didn't just create an absence, they created space, space that now belongs entirely to you. Think about it. How many parts of yourself did you gradually fold away to make room for that relationship? Which dreams did you quietly shelve? What friendships faded as you prioritized that connection? What opinions did you soften? What boundaries did you lower? We often don't realize how much we've compromised until the compromise is no longer necessary. Like a bird so accustomed to its cage that it forgets the sky exists. This perspective shift isn't about denying pain or pretending you weren't hurt. It's about recognizing that alongside that hurt exists an opening, a doorway to possibilities that were previously closed while you were in that relationship. Freedom means decisions that don't require negotiation, weekends that follow your rhythm, a living space that reflects only your taste. The ability to grow in directions that might have been gently discouraged before. Freedom means rediscovering your unfiltered self, the person you were before you started editing your thoughts, preferences, and behaviors to maintain someone else's comfort or approval. When someone leaves, they hand you back your autonomy. All the energy you spent managing their emotions, anticipating their needs, and worrying about their reactions, that energy is now yours to reinvest. This shift from victim to free spirit isn't instant. It happens gradually, in moments of realization that land like gentle surprises. I can actually do this now. I don't have to check with anyone. This decision is completely mine. Limiting relationships rarely announce themselves. They don't arrive with warning labels or red flags waving in the wind. Instead, they settle in slowly like fog, each small restriction barely noticeable until suddenly you can't see beyond arm's length. Perhaps it started with gentle criticisms of people you spent time with, not outright demands to end friendships, just subtle comments that made seeing those friends feel more complicated than it was worth. Or maybe it was dismissive remarks about your interests, tiny paper cuts to your enthusiasm until you stopped mentioning things you loved. Many limiting partnerships operate through unspoken rules. You learned which topics sparked tension. You discovered which dreams received lukewarm responses. You mapped invisible landmines in conversations and stepped carefully around them. Time spent away from them somehow required explanation, while their time away was simply their right. Your successes needed downplaying to avoid appearing competitive. Your struggles received solutions rather than support, making vulnerability feel unsafe. Perhaps you heard phrases like, "I'm just trying to help you improve," or "I only want what's best for you," while feeling smaller rather than empowered. Growth appeared packaged as criticism rather than encouragement. These limitations become invisible through normalization. What initially felt uncomfortable slowly transforms into just how things are. Like a frog in slowly heating water, we adapt to increasing constraints without noticing the gradual change in temperature. We rationalize these shrinking boundaries. We tell ourselves relationships require compromise. We mistake control for care, jealousy for passion, criticism for honesty. We label ourselves as too sensitive when something hurts. Every relationship creates a culture, spoken and unspoken rules about what's acceptable. Healthy cultures expand possibilities, limiting ones gradually constrict them. In the daily experience of a relationship, these differences can be nearly impossible to detect. Our identities intertwine with our partners. Their approval becomes our compass. Their reactions predict our choices. This merging feels like closeness, but often masks a slow erosion of individual identity. What's particularly insidious is how these limitations disguise themselves as love. I worry when you drive alone at night seems like protection rather than control. That outfit might attract the wrong attention, sounds like concern rather than possession. Now comes an unexpected gift, the chance to rediscover yourself piece by piece. This journey feels both familiar and foreign, like returning to a childhood home that's slightly different than you remembered. Parts of your identity have been waiting patiently in the shadows, ready to step forward again. Start with small tastes of forgotten freedoms. Perhaps it's music they never appreciated that once moved your soul. Maybe it's friendships that slowly faded as your relationship became all-consuming. It might be styles of clothing you gradually stopped wearing because they didn't receive the right compliments or approval. What opinions did you soften? Which beliefs did you keep quiet to maintain peace? Where did you learn to make yourself smaller? These questions unlock doors to rooms within yourself that may have gathered dust. This phase of rediscovery isn't about spite or rebellion. It's archaeological, carefully excavating authentic parts of yourself that were buried beneath relationship compromises. Some will fit perfectly, like finding an old favorite jacket. Others might not suit you anymore, and that's valuable information too. Exploration requires curiosity without judgment. Notice which activities energize you versus which ones drain you. Pay attention to when you feel fully present versus when you're performing for an audience that's no longer there. These observations form breadcrumbs leading back to your core self. Many people discover surprising new interests during this phase. Without someone else's preferences influencing decisions, you might find yourself drawn to experiences you never would have considered before. This expansion happens because your identity is no longer defined in relation to someone else's. Days might feel strange at first, too open, too unstructured, lacking the anchoring presence of another person's needs and expectations. This discomfort signals growth. Like muscles unused for too long, your sense of self needs time to strengthen again. Decision-making transforms during this period. Notice how different it feels to choose based solely on your preferences. Simple questions like, what do I want for dinner? Or how do I want to spend Saturday become gateways to self-knowledge when no one else's desires need consideration. Physical spaces transform too, rearranging furniture, changing wall colors, or simply displaying items that hold personal meaning helps externalize this internal shift. Each change declares, this space now reflects only me. Relationships create patterns, invisible dances we perform without conscious thought. Two people develop intricate systems for handling conflict, expressing needs, giving affection, and navigating daily life. When these patterns become unhealthy, they're extraordinarily difficult to change from within the relationship. Separation acts as a circuit breaker, instantly interrupting destructive cycles that might have continued for years. That reflexive reaction, where criticism triggers defensiveness, which escalates to withdrawal, which leads to pursuing behaviors, which circles back to criticism, suddenly halted. Those familiar arguments that started from different triggers but always followed the same script no longer possible. This interruption creates a rare opportunity to examine these patterns from a distance. Without the emotional intensity of being actively engaged in them, clarity emerges. Questions become possible. Why did I accept that treatment? What needs was I trying to fulfill? How did my responses contribute to those cycles? Many people discover they've carried the same unhealthy patterns across multiple relationships. These aren't coincidences, but templates established through early experiences, family dynamics, or previous partnerships. Separation provides space to identify these templates rather than blindly repeating them. Breaking patterns requires discomfort. New behaviors feel awkward and unnatural at first. Setting boundaries might trigger guilt. Expressing needs directly might feel selfish. Standing firm on deal breakers might seem rigid. This discomfort signals growth, the creation of new neural pathways replacing worn, familiar ones. Future relationships benefit enormously from this pattern-breaking work. New connections can be assessed more objectively. Does this person respect my boundaries? Can they handle direct communication? Do they take responsibility for their actions? Questions that previously got buried beneath chemistry and hope now remain front and center. Healthier patterns emerge through intentional practice, learning to sit with uncomfortable emotions rather than seeking immediate relief, communicating needs without manipulative tactics, resolving conflicts without character assassination, maintaining individuality while building connection. Solo time provides consequence-free practice grounds. Conversations with friends, family, and colleagues become opportunities to implement healthier communication styles. Dating experiences transform into learning laboratories rather than auditions for replacement partners. This pattern breaking extends beyond romantic relationships. Family dynamics shift, workplace interactions improve, friendships deepen. The ripple effect touches every connection as new standards for treatment become non-negotiable. Relationships consume vast amounts of energy. Hours spent texting, calling, planning together, managing conflicts, supporting their goals, attending their family events, all represent significant investments of time and emotional resources. When a relationship ends, this energy doesn't simply disappear. It becomes available for redirection. Many people initially use this energy to analyze what went wrong, repeatedly reliving painful moments or imagining alternate scenarios. While some reflection is necessary, endlessly recycling these thoughts creates a holding pattern that prevents forward movement. Redirecting this newly available energy toward personal goals creates powerful momentum. Projects previously pushed to someday suddenly have space to develop. Career aspirations that took back seats can move forward. Creative pursuits abandoned due to time constraints or subtle discouragement find room to breathe again. Goals provide concrete focal points during a period that otherwise feels nebulous and undefined. They create structure, measurable progress, and small victories that rebuild confidence. Each step forward in a personal project becomes evidence of capability independent of relationship status. Purpose-driven activities naturally expand social circles. Classes, volunteer work, professional organizations, or hobby groups connect you with people who share specific interests rather than just proximity or convenience. These connections form around authentic passions, rather than the need to fill emotional voids. Building skills, pursuing education, improving health, or developing creative talents generates internal resources that remain regardless of relationship status. Unlike the conditional stability of depending on another person, these achievements create foundations that cannot be removed by someone else's decisions. This focus on purpose naturally shifts the narrative from what was lost to what is being built. Language transforms from past-oriented to future-focused. Identity reforms around capabilities and contributions rather than relationship roles. Self-perception strengthens as accomplishments accumulate. Paradoxically, becoming purposefully engaged with personal goals creates emotional availability for healthier future relationships. Someone actively building a meaningful life brings fullness to new connections rather than emptiness needing to be filled. This fullness establishes natural boundaries, the awareness that while partnership adds value, it isn't the sole source of meaning or stability. Future relationships benefit from this foundation because they start from choice rather than necessity. The desperation that sometimes drives poor partnership decisions diminishes when life already contains purpose, community, and achievement. New connections can be evaluated with clarity rather than through the lens of emotional hunger. Healing begins with acceptance, not of deserving pain, but of facing reality exactly as it exists. This person has chosen to leave. That fact must be absorbed fully before genuine healing starts. Many people extend their suffering by feeding denial through constant checking of social media, maintaining mutual friendships primarily for information, or creating reasons for contact. These behaviors keep wounds fresh rather than allowing them to close. Creating physical distance helps establish emotional distance. Rearranging living spaces removes visual triggers that prompt rumination. Changing daily routines disrupts environmental cues that activate memories. New coffee shops, different jogging routes, and alternate grocery stores create experiences untouched by shared history. Feelings need direct processing rather than avoidance. Setting specific time limits for intentional emotional work prevents both suppression and indulgence. 20 minutes of journaling about grief, followed by engaging in a constructive activity, balances acknowledgement with forward movement. This structured approach makes difficult emotions manageable rather than overwhelming. Sleep, nutrition, movement, and hydration form the non-negotiable foundation of emotional healing. Brain chemistry already struggles during heartbreak. Poor physical self-care further compromises emotional regulation capacity. Simple practices like morning sunlight exposure, consistent sleep schedules, and daily movement stabilize mood fluctuations better than most coping strategies. Developing emotional self-sufficiency means learning to self-soothe during difficult moments. Techniques like deep breathing, sensory grounding, and cognitive reframing build internal resources for managing emotional waves without external help. These skills serve far beyond heartbreak, becoming lifelong tools for emotional resilience. Many healing practices connect internal and external worlds. Volunteer work transforms personal pain into service for others. Creative expression externalizes emotions that feel unmanageable when contained inside. Nature immersion provides perspective through contact with systems much larger than individual human concerns. Building robust friendship networks creates emotional safety nets that don't depend on any single relationship. Different connections meet different needs. Some friends provide practical support, others offer wisdom, still others bring lightness and play. This diversity ensures no single person must carry the entire weight of emotional needs. Professional support offers objective guidance when needed. Therapy provides structured processing of complex emotions, identification of destructive patterns, and accountability for growth-oriented choices. Support groups normalize experiences through shared stories of recovery. Gratitude rarely enters our minds during heartbreak. It seems impossible, even offensive, to feel thankful towards someone who caused such pain. Yet paradoxically, finding gratitude becomes a pivotal moment in healing, marking the transition from victim to empowered creator of your own life. This shift begins with a challenging question. What if this ending, despite its pain, was exactly what needed to happen for your growth? What if staying would have cost you opportunities for evolution that you couldn't even envision while inside that relationship? What if leaving was actually their final gift to you? Life contains chapters that must end before others can begin. Sometimes we lack the courage to close these chapters ourselves, even when they no longer serve us. We cling to comfort, familiarity, and sunk costs rather than facing the temporary discomfort of change. When someone else makes this decision, they unknowingly become the catalyst for transformation we couldn't initiate ourselves. Genuine gratitude emerges through concrete evidence. Documenting specific positive changes since the breakup creates tangible proof of growth. New friendships formed, career opportunities pursued, personal discoveries made, health improvements achieved. Each item represents something that likely wouldn't exist had that relationship continued. Many people report perspective shifts months after a breakup. If we hadn't ended then, I would never have moved to this city. I wouldn't have reconnected with my passion for music. I couldn't have discovered my capacity for independence. These realizations aren't forced positivity, but authentic recognition of unexpected gifts hidden within painful transitions. Gratitude doesn't erase the valid hurt experienced. It simply allows both truths to coexist. This person caused pain, and their departure created openings for positive change. This nuanced perspective replaces binary thinking with a more accurate reflection of complex human experiences. Writing an unsent letter of thanks often catalyzes this perspective shift. Acknowledging specific ways their departure ultimately benefited your life dignifies your pain while honoring your growth. This practice isn't about forgiving mistreatment, but recognizing that even painful endings contain seeds of new beginnings. Appreciating your freedom means owning your journey completely, recognizing that regardless of who initiated the ending, the path forward is entirely yours to create. Their importance in your story shifts from central character to supporting role, someone who appeared, contributed their part, and exited exactly when they needed to. The relationship that once defined so much of your life has now become just one chapter in your much larger story. Its ending, which once felt like your world collapsing, has revealed itself as a doorway to deeper self-knowledge, to more authentic connections, and to a life designed entirely by your own hand. Pain always carries purpose when we're brave enough to look for it. That person who walked away didn't diminish your story, they simply finished their role in it. And in their absence, you've discovered strengths you never knew you possessed, dreams you had temporarily forgotten, and a resilience that cannot be broken by anyone's departure. Freedom isn't the absence of connection, but the presence of choice. Choice about who deserves space in your life, what values guide your decisions, and which parts of yourself you'll never again compromise. The most powerful relationships are those we enter, not from need, but from wholeness. If this message resonates with you today, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us reach others who might be standing exactly where you once stood, wondering if the pain will ever end, unaware that their greatest chapter might be just beginning.